Hi, I'm Rolf Prose with Shooter's Paradise. We've posted some videos about evidence, and I wanted to create a Patreon-only video to get deeper into that, that aspect of things. We discussed that there's 3 stages to a fight: the build-up, the actual fight itself, and then the legal aftermath afterwards. Normally, you're going to see the build-up will be a fairly good chunk of time. The fight itself will be a very small piece of time, and then the legal aftermath afterwards stretches on, often for a year, sometimes more. So it's something that is really worth my consideration. We talked about different kinds of evidence. We talked about why, witnesses are exceedingly unreliable. My statement and what I think happened is unreliable, believe it or not. Tunnel vision, auditory exclusion, time dilation, these other things play in, and they seriously affect my ability to remember. This is why law enforcement is given 48 to 72 hours before they give a statement. You should demand the same. I would not say anything to an investigator without my attorney present. And I would work with my attorney to ensure that I got that same 48 to 72 hours to have the memory stuff settle. And that way I'm not saying something that I thought was right, but was really incorrect, and it made me look like a liar in a courtroom. That would be really, really bad. So my own personal statement is unreliable. I don't even know exactly what happened because of the changes in my perception abilities. And then the witnesses, half the witnesses say one thing and half the others say something 180 degrees opposite. So the witnesses are unreliable, and evidence becomes the thing that points toward the truth. By itself, evidence can tell many, many different stories. But if you have a story from the person who actually did the action, and then you have another story from some of the witnesses that pretty well line up together, and then the evidence also points toward that being correct, then the other story, the story of your guilt, that will be shown not to be true. Nothing is perfect, of course, but often it works this way, that you will be able to show your innocence. You're never innocent in a court of law. You're not guilty. You'll be not guilty of whatever the charge is that's levied at you, and the evidence will be the final mortar that seals the deal on that. So we have inculpatory evidence and exculpatory evidence. So inculpatory evidence is going to be evidence that shows I did the illegal act. Whatever act I'm being charged with, whatever illegality it is. Inculpatory evidence is evidence that I did that thing, or I had that frame of thought when things happened, whatever it is. The exculpatory evidence is evidence that's going to show that I did not do the illegal thing. Actually, what I did was legal. Exculpatory evidence is going to be evidence that shows my actions were legal. So now we get to where the rubber meets the road, and this is solely for you Patreon subscribers, that I need to think about what I do in life and how that generates evidence. Do I want to defend myself with a revolver, or do I want to defend myself with a semi-auto? Well, people look at that from a perspective of which gun do I like better. Well, I think we need to look at it from a perspective of which gun produces the evidence that I need. A revolver keeps the cartridges, the spent cartridges, the casings inside the cylinder. It does not eject them or dump them when you fire the gun. Now, if you fire the gun till it's empty and go to reload the gun, then yes, you're going to dump everything in one spot. But there's no evidence created by a revolver that shows where you were standing at the time based on the casings ejecting from the gun. Semi-autos do that. And so a semi-auto can fairly well pinpoint where I was when I was actually engaged in the fight. This can be a huge thing. I would refer you in Louisiana to the appellate decision from Ronald Gasser. Ronald Gasser was involved in a road rage incident, and make a long story short, Ronald Gasser was allowed to walk the streets. I forget, it was 2 or 3 days that he was allowed to walk the streets before he was finally arrested. And the reason for that is, my belief is that Ronald Gasser did use a semi-automatic firearm to defend himself from inside his car. When he did that, the casings were ejected into the car. Louisiana has a law that adds some protections to you if you use force from inside a home, a business, or a vehicle. And so it looked like he should get those increased protections. And it was only afterwards that Ronald Gasser was found to have he should not have gotten benefit of those protections. So if Ronald Gasser had a semi-automatic, well, if he had a revolver, and had fired a revolver, none of those casings would have come out in the car. He only fired 3. So in that case, then, going back to the witness statements on the scene, some witnesses says he got out of the car and chased the guy all over with a gun. Other witnesses says he was inside the car when he shot. So that being the case, his use of a semi-auto created exculpatory evidence that showed him being there when he fired. This is something that's very important for us to consider. Having locked doors and letting people knock down a door to come to you before you engage them is a tremendous thing, because that is exculpatory evidence. And in the state of Louisiana, you're going to get the benefit of additional laws that give you additional protections if you're inside a car, a house, or a automobile, a vehicle, a house, or a business, and somebody makes an illegal forcible entry that you knew or had reason to believe was about to happen. So it would be very valuable for me to give some thought to creating exculpatory evidence when I set myself up for how I live my life. Carry a semi-auto rather than a revolver in order to create evidence of where I was when I shot. I didn't chase him down the street, I was right here. None of this is perfect, but with a revolver, it doesn't even come into the equation. So I would strongly recommend that you consider keeping your windows up. That way glass has to be broken. We want to generate evidence of our innocence. Keeping our doors locked. That way door casings have to be broken for people to get in and get to us. We want to use a firearm that's going to generate the right kind of evidence for us at the time. These are important considerations. They're pretty high-level considerations. This is not something for the average person to consider. And I absolutely 100% am not advocating for anybody to create any evidence that's improper. What I'm talking about is I have 2 ways to do things. I can wear flip-flops or I can wear shoes. Well, if I wear shoes, it'll protect my feet better. That's what I'm talking about. Well, I hope this is valuable to you. I'd be very interested in hearing your thoughts and talking with you more about it. I will make some more videos soon. Stay safe.